The Beacon's Second Reader by James Hiram Fassett. Mother Frost. At the edge of a wood there was a great, clear, bubbling spring of cold water. Near this spring lived a widow and her 2 daughters. One of them was very beautiful and a great help about the house, while the other was ugly and idle. The mother loved only the ugly one, for she was her own child. She cared so little for the other daughter that she made her do all the hard work. Every day the poor girl would sit beside the spring and spin until her fingers bled. One day, while she was washing the blood from her hands, the spindle fell into the spring and sank to the bottom. With tears in her eyes, she ran and told her stepmother what she had done. The stepmother was angry and said, "You let the spindle fall into the spring. Now you must go and get it out." The maiden went back to the spring to look for the spindle. She leaned so far over the edge that her hand slipped, and down she sank to the very bottom. All at once she found that she was in a beautiful field where many wild flowers grew. As she walked across the field, she came to a baker's oven full of new bread. The loaves cried to her, "Oh, pull us out, or we shall burn." "Indeed I will," cried the maiden. Stepping up, she pulled all the sweet brown loaves out of the oven. As she walked along, she came to a tree full of apples. The tree cried, shake me, my apples are all quite ripe." "Indeed I will," cried the maiden. So she shook the tree again and again until there was not an apple left on its branches. Then she picked up the apples one by one and piled them in a great heap. When she had picked up all the apples, she walked on. At last she came to a small house. In the doorway sat an old woman who had such large teeth that the girl felt afraid of her and turned to run away. Then the old woman cried, "What do you fear, my child? Come in and live here with me. If you do the work about the house, I will be very kind to you. Only take care to make my bed well. You must shake it and pound it so that the feathers will fly about. Then the children down on the earth will say that snowflakes are falling, for I am Mother Frost." The old woman spoke so kindly that she won the maiden's heart. "I will gladly work for you," she said. The girl did her work well, and each day she shook up the bed until the feathers flew about like snowflakes. She was very happy with Mother Frost, who never spoke an angry word. After the girl had stayed a long time with the kind old woman, she began to feel homesick. She could not help it, though her life with Mother Frost had been so happy. At length she said, "Dear Mother Frost, you have been very kind to me, but I should like to go home to my friends." "I am pleased to hear you say that you wish to go home," said Mother Frost. "You have worked for me so well that I will show you the way myself." She took the maiden by the hand and led her to a broad gateway. The gate was open, and as she went through, a shower of gold fell over the maiden. It clung to her clothes so that she was dressed in gold from her head to her feet. "That is your pay for having worked so hard," said the old woman. "And here is your spindle that fell into the spring." Then the gate was closed, and the maiden found herself once more in the world. She was not far from her own home, and as she came into the farmyard, a cock on the roof cried loudly, "Cock-a-doodle-doo, our golden lady has come home too." When the stepmother saw the girl with her golden dress, she was kind to her. Then the maiden told how the gold had fallen upon her. The mother could hardly wait to have her own child try her luck in the same way. This time she made the idle daughter go to the spring and spin. The lazy girl did not spin fast enough to make her fingers bleed, so she pricked her finger with a thorn until a few drops of blood stained the spindle. At once she let it drop into the water and sprang in after it herself. The ugly girl found herself in a beautiful field, just as her sister had. She walked along the same path until she came to the baker's oven. She heard the loaves cry, pull us out, or we shall burn." But the lazy girl said to the brown loaves, "I will not. I do not want to soil my hands in your dirty oven." Then she walked on until she came to the apple tree. Shake me, it cried, for my apples are quite ripe." "I will not," said the girl, "for some of your apples might fall on my head." As she spoke, she walked lazily on. At last the girl stood before the door of Mother Frost's house. She had no fear of Mother Frost's great teeth, but walked right up to the old woman and offered to be her servant. For a whole day the girl was very busy and did everything that she was told to do. On the second day she began to be lazy, and on the third day she was still worse. She would not get up in the morning. The bed was never made or shaken so the feathers could fly about. At last Mother Frost grew tired of her and told her that she must go away. This was what the lazy girl wanted, for she felt sure that now she would have the golden shower. Mother Frost led her to the great gate, but as she passed under it, a kettle full of black pitch was upset over her. "This is what you get for your work," said the old woman as she shut the gate. The idle girl walked home covered with pitch. When she went into the farmyard, the cock on the roof cried out, "Cock-a-doodle-doo, our sticky lady has come home too." The pitch stuck so fast to the girl that, as long as she lived, it never came off. If ever I see on bush or tree young birds in their pretty nest, I must not, in play, steal the birds away to grieve their mother's breast. My mother, I know, would sorrow so, should I be stolen away. So I'll speak to the birds in my softest words, nor hurt them in my play. And when they can fly in the bright blue sky, they'll warble a song to me. And then if I'm sad, it will make me glad to think they are happy and free. Why the bear's tail is short. Did you ever go to a circus where there was a bear in a cage? Did you notice how short his tail was? I will tell you how the bear's tail came to be short. One very cold day in winter, a fox saw some men taking home a load of fish. The fox jumped upon the wagon while the men were not looking. He threw off some of the best fish until he had enough for his dinner. Then Mr. Fox jumped from the wagon and began to eat the fish. While he was eating the fish, Mr. Bear came along. "Good morning," said Mr. Bear. "You have had good luck fishing today. Those are very fine fish. How did you catch them?" "They are fine fish," said Mr. Fox. "If you will go fishing with me tonight, I will show you how to catch even better fish than these." "I will go with you gladly," said the bear. "I will bring my hook and line, too." "You don't need a hook and line," said the fox. "I always catch fish with my tail. You have a much longer tail than I, and can fish so much the better." At sunset, the bear met the fox. They went across the frozen river until they came to a small hole in the ice. "Now, Mr. Bear," said the fox, "sit down here on the ice and put your tail through the hole. You must keep still for a long while. That is the best way to catch fish. Wait until a great many fish take hold of your tail, then pull with all your might." The bear sat very still for a long time. At last he began to feel cold, and he moved a little. "Ow!" he cried, for his tail had begun to freeze in the ice. "Is it not time to pull out the fish?" said the bear. "No, no," cried the fox. "Wait until more fish have taken hold of your tail. You are very strong. You can wait a little longer." So the poor bear waited until it was almost morning. Just then some dogs began to bark on the bank of the river. The bear was so afraid that he jumped up quickly and pulled with all his might, but his tail was frozen fast in the ice. He pulled and pulled until at length the tail was broken short off. Mr. Fox ran away, laughing and laughing at the trick he had played upon Mr. Bear. Bears' tails have been short ever since. Rumpelstiltskin. Once upon a time there lived a miller who had a beautiful daughter. Now the miller had to visit the king's castle, and while there he happened to meet the king face to face. The king stopped and spoke to the miller. The miller, wishing the king to think that he was very rich, told him that he had a daughter who could spin straw into gold. "Ah," said the king, "that is indeed a wonderful gift. Tomorrow you must bring your daughter to my castle, that she may spin some gold for me." Then the miller was afraid and wished he had not spoken, but he had to do as the king ordered. The next day he brought his daughter to the castle. Now it happened that the king loved gold above all things. So taking the poor girl by the hand, he led her into one of the great rooms of the castle. There in the middle of the room stood a spinning wheel, and near it was a great heap of straw. The king turned to the miller's daughter and said, "There is your spinning wheel, and here is the straw. If you do not spin all of it into gold by morning, your head shall be cut off." Then the king left the room and locked the door behind him. The poor girl could only sit and weep, for she had not the least idea how to spin straw into gold. While she was crying, the door flew open, and a little old man stepped into the room. He had bandy legs, a long red nose, and wore a tall peaked cap. Bowing low to the maiden, he said, "Good evening, my dear young lady. Why are you crying?" "Alas," said the girl, "the king has ordered me to spin all this straw into gold, and I do not know how." Then the little man said, "What will you give me if I will spin it for you?" "This string of gold beads from my neck," said the girl. The little man took the beads, and sitting down began to spin. Whir, whir went the wheel, round and round it whirled. Lo, as the maiden looked, she saw the coarse straw turn into beautiful golden threads. The little man kept so busily at work that soon all the straw was gone, and in its place lay a heap of the finest gold. The next morning the king unlocked the door. How his eyes sparkled at the sight of the gold! These riches made the king even more greedy than before. He led the maiden to a still larger chamber, which was full of straw. Turning to the trembling girl, he said, "There is your spinning wheel, and here is the straw. If you do not spin all of it into gold by morning, your head shall be cut off." The maiden's eyes filled with tears at the sight of that huge heap of straw. Sitting down, she began to cry. All at once the door opened, and in jumped the little old man. He took off his pointed cap and said to the miller's daughter, "What will you give me if I help you again and spin this straw into gold?" "This ring from my finger," said the maiden. The little man took the ring, and seating himself before the spinning wheel, began to spin. Whir, whir went the wheel. Faster and faster it whirled. In the morning the straw had all been turned into finest gold. When the king opened the door, how his eyes glistened at the sight of the gold! Still, it only made him greedy for more, so taking the poor girl by the hand, he led her to a much larger chamber. This was so full of straw that there was hardly room for her to sit at the spinning wheel. Turning to the maiden, the king said, "This is your spinning wheel, and here is the straw. If you do not spin all of it into gold by morning, your head shall be cut off. But if you do spin the gold, I will marry you and make you my queen." "For," thought the king, "though she is only a miller's daughter, yet she can make me the richest king in the world." Hardly had the door closed behind the king when the little old man came hopping and skipping into the room. Taking off his pointed cap, he said to the girl, "What will you give me if I will again spin this straw for you?" "Ah," said the maiden, "I have nothing more to give." "Then you must make me a promise," said the little man. "You must promise to give me your first child after you have become queen." The poor girl saw no other way to save her life, so she gave her promise to the little man. Then he sat down and began to spin. Whir, whir went the wheel. Faster and faster he spun. Soon the great room full of straw was all turned into gold. When the king opened the door the next morning, he saw the maiden sitting beside a large heap of shining gold. The king kept his promise and made the poor miller's daughter his queen. About a year later, the queen had a lovely child, but she forgot all about her promise. One day the little old man came hopping into the queen's room and said, "Now give me what you have promised." The queen was filled with terror and offered the little man all the riches of the kingdom if he would leave her the child. "No, I do not care for riches. You must keep your promise." Then the queen began to mourn and to weep until the little man had pity for her. "I will give you 3 days," he said, "and if in that time you can guess my name, You shall keep the child." The queen lay awake that night, thinking of all the names she had ever heard. In the morning, men were sent to every part of the kingdom to find strange names. The next day, the little man came again. The queen began to call off to him all the names she had found: Caspar, Melchior, and many, many others. At each one, the little man shook his head and said, "No, that is not my name." Then the queen had her men go from house to house through the town. They took down the name of every man, woman, and child. When the little man came again, the queen had a long list of names to give him. "Is your name Cow Ribs, or Sheep Shanks, or Bandy Legs?" she said to him at last. He answered to each one, "No, that is not my name." On the third day, the queen's men began to come back from all parts of the kingdom. They had been far and wide to find new names. One of these men said, "I could not find any new names, but going by some deep woods, I heard a fox wish good night to a rabbit. Soon I came upon a little house, in front of which a fire was burning. Around this fire danced a little man. He wore a pointed cap and had a long nose and bandy legs. As he went hopping and jumping about, first on one leg and then on the other, he sang, 'My baking and brewing I will do today, the queen's son tomorrow I will take away. No wise man can show the queen where to begin, for my name, to be sure, is Rumpelstiltskin.'" The queen clapped her hands for joy. She knew that at last she had found the name. She sent the servant away with a bag of gold and waited for the queer little man to come to her. At sunset, the little fellow came hopping and skipping up to the queen. "Now, O queen," he said, "this is your last chance. Tell me my name." The queen asked, "Is your name Conrad?" "No." "Henry?" "No." "Then your name is Rumpelstiltskin." "The fairies have told you," shouted the little man, dancing about. He became so angry that in his rage he stamped his right foot into the ground. This made him more angry still, and taking hold of his left foot with both hands, he pulled so hard that he tore himself quite in two. Bed in summer. In winter I get up at night and dress by yellow candlelight. In summer, quite the other way. I have to go to bed by day. I have to go to bed and see the birds still hopping on the tree, or hear the grown-up people's feet still going past me in the street. And does it not seem hard to you when all the sky is clear and blue, and I should like so much to play, to have to go to bed by day? The Golden Touch. Many years ago there lived a king named Midas. King Midas had one little daughter, whose name was Marigold. King Midas was very, very rich. It was said that he had more gold than any other king in the world. One room of his great castle was almost filled with yellow gold pieces. At last the king grew so fond of his gold that he loved it better than anything else in all the world. He even loved it better than his own little daughter, dear little rosy-cheeked Marigold. His one great wish seemed to be for more and more gold. One day, while he was in his gold room counting his money, a beautiful fairy boy stood before him. The boy's face shone with a wonderful light, and he had wings on his cap and wings on his feet. In his hand he carried a strange-looking wand, and the wand also had wings. "Midas, you are the richest man in the world," said the fairy. "There is no king who has so much gold as you." "That may be," said the king. "As you see, I have this room full of gold, but I should like much more, for gold is the best and the most wonderful thing in the world." "Are you sure?" asked the fairy. "I'm very sure," answered the king. "If I should grant you one wish," said the fairy, "would you ask for more gold?" "If I could have but one wish," said the king, "I would ask that everything I touch should turn to beautiful yellow gold." "Your wish shall be granted," said the fairy. "At sunrise tomorrow morning, your slightest touch will turn everything into gold. But I warn you that your gift will not make you happy." "I will take the risk," said the king. The next morning King Midas awoke very early. He was eager to see if the fairy's promise had come true. As soon as the sun arose, he tried the gift by touching the bed lightly with his hand. The bed turned to gold. He touched the chair and table. Upon the instant they were turned to solid gold. The king was wild with joy. He ran around the room, touching everything he could see. His magic gift turned all to shining yellow gold. The king soon felt hungry and went down to eat his breakfast. Now a strange thing happened. When he raised a glass of clear, cold water to drink, it became solid gold. Not a drop of water could pass his lips. The bread turned to gold under his fingers. The meat was hard and yellow and shiny. Not a thing could he get to eat. All was gold, gold, gold. His little daughter came running in from the garden. Of all living creatures, she was the dearest to him. He touched her hair with his lips. At once the little girl was changed to a golden statue. A great fear crept into the king's heart, sweeping all the joy out of his life. In his grief he called and called upon the fairy who had given him the gift of the golden touch. "O fairy," he begged, "take away this horrible golden gift. Take all my lands, take all my gold, take everything, only give me back my little daughter." In a moment the beautiful fairy was standing before him. "Do you still think that gold is the greatest thing in the world?" asked the fairy. "No, no," cried the king. "I hate the very sight of the yellow stuff." "Are you sure that you no longer wish the golden touch?" asked the fairy. "I've learned my lesson," said the king. "I no longer think gold the greatest thing in the world." "Very well," said the fairy. "Take this pitcher to the spring in the garden and fill it with water. Then sprinkle those things which you have touched and turn to gold." The king took the pitcher and rushed to the spring. Running back, he first sprinkled the head of his dear little girl. Instantly she became his own darling marigold again, and gave him a kiss. The king sprinkled the golden food, and to his great joy it turned back to real bread and real butter. Then he and his little daughter sat down to breakfast. How good the cold water tasted! How eagerly the hungry king ate the bread and butter, the meat, and all the good food. The king hated his golden touch so much that he sprinkled even the chairs and the tables and everything else that the fairy's gift had turned to gold. Over in the meadow. Over in the meadow, in the sand and the sun, lived an old mother toad and her little toady one. "Wink," said the mother. "I wink," said the one. So she winked and she blinked in the sand in the sun. Over in the meadow, where the stream runs blue, lived an old mother fish and her little fishes too. "Swim," said the mother. "We swim," said the two. So they swam and they leaped where the stream runs blue. Over in the meadow, in a hole in a tree, lived a mother bluebird and her little birdies three. "Sing," said the mother. "We sing," said the three. So they sang and were glad in the hole in the tree. Over in the meadow, in a snug beehive, lived a mother honeybee and her little honeys five. "Buzz," said the mother. "We buzz," said the five. So they buzzed and they hummed in the snug beehive. Over in the meadow, where the clear pools shine, lived a green mother frog and her little froggies nine. "Croak," said the mother. "We croak," said the nine. So they croaked and they splashed where the clear pools shine. Over in the meadow, in a sly little den, lived a gray mother spider and her little spiders 10. "Spin," said the mother. "We spin," said the 10. So they spun lace webs in their sly little den. The Bell of Atri. Once upon a time, a good and wise king ruled in the city of Atri. He wished all his people to be happy. In order that justice might be done to everyone, he ordered a great bell to be hung in a tower. Tied to the bell was a strong rope, so long that it reached nearly to the ground. "I have placed the bell in the center of my city," said the king, "so that it will be near all the people. The rope I have made long, so that even a little child can reach it." Then the king gave out this order: "If there be anyone among my people who feels that he is not being justly treated, let him ring this bell. Then, whether he be old or young, rich or poor, his story shall be heard." The bell of justice had hung in its place for many years. Many times it had been rung by the poor and needy, and justice had been done. At length the old rope became worn with use and age. When it was taken down, another rope, long enough and strong enough, could not be found, so the king had to send away for one. "What if someone should need help while the rope is down?" cried the people. "We must find something to take its place." So one of the men cut a long grapevine and fastened it to the great bell. It was in the springtime, and green shoots and leaves hung from the grapevine rope. Near Atri there lived a rich old soldier. This soldier owned a horse that had been with him through many battles. The horse had grown old and lame, and was no longer able to work. So his cruel master turned him out into the streets to get his living as best he could. "If you cannot find enough to eat, then you may die," said the miser. "You are of no use to me." The old horse went limping along. He grew thinner and thinner. At length he limped up to the tower where the bell of justice hung. His dim eyes saw the green shoots and the fresh leaves of the grapevine. Thinking they were good to eat, he gave a pull at the vine. "Ding dong," said the great bell. The people came running from all sides. "Who is calling for justice?" they cried. There stood the old horse, chewing on the grapevine. "Ding dong," rang the great bell. "Whose horse is this?" asked the judges as they came running up. Then the story of the old horse was told. The judges sent for his cruel master. They ordered that he should build a warm barn, and that the faithful horse should have the best of hay and grain as long as he lived. The people shouted for joy at this act of justice, but the miser hung his head in shame and led the old horse away. The baby. No shoes to hide her tiny toes, no stockings on her feet, her little ankles white as snow, or early blossoms sweet. Her simple dress of sprinkled pink, her tiny dimpled chin, her rosebud lips and bonny mouth, with not one tooth between. Her eyes so like her mother's own, two gentle liquid things. Her face is like an angel's face. We're glad she has no wings. Bruce and the Spider. Robert Bruce, King of Scotland, was hiding in a hut in the forest. His enemies were seeking him far and wide. 6 times he had met them in battle, and 6 times he had failed. Hope and courage were gone. Bruce had given up all as lost. He was about to run away from Scotland and to leave the country in the hands of his enemies. Full of sorrow, he lay stretched on a pile of straw in the poor woodchopper's hut. While he lay thinking, he noticed a spider spinning her web. The spider was trying to spin a thread from one beam of the cottage to another. It was a long way between the beams, and Bruce saw how hard a thing it was for her to do. "She can never do it," thought the king. The little spider tried it once and failed. She tried it twice and failed. The king counted each time. At length she had tried it 6 times and had failed each time. "She is like me," thought the king. "I have tried 6 battles and failed. She has tried 6 times to reach the beam and failed." Then, starting up from the straw, he cried, "I will hang my fate upon that little spider. If she swings the 7th time and fails, then I will give up all for lost. If she swings the 7th time and wins, I will call my men together once more for a battle with the enemy." The spider tried the 7th time, letting herself down upon her slender thread. She swung out bravely. "Look, look," shouted the king. "She has reached it. The thread hangs between the 2 beams. If the spider can do it, I can do it." Bruce got up from the straw with new strength and sent his men from village to village, calling the people to arms. The brave soldiers answered his call and came trooping in. At length his army was ready to fight, and when the king led them in a great battle against the enemy, this time, like the spider, Bruce won. The Wise Little Pig. "Where are you going, you little pig?" "I'm leaving my mother. I'm growing so big." "So big, young pig, so young, so big." What, leaving your mother, you foolish young pig? Where are you going, you little pig? I've got a new spade, and I'm going to dig. To dig, little pig, a little pig dig. Well, I never saw a pig with a spade that could dig. Where are you going, you little pig? I'm going to have a nice ride in a jig. In a jig, little pig. What, a pig in a jig? Well, I never yet saw a pig ride in a jig. Where are you going, you little pig? I'm going to the barber's to buy me a wig. A wig, little pig, a pig in a wig. Why, whoever before saw a pig in a wig? Where are you going, you little pig? I'm going to the ball to dance a fine jig. A jig, little pig, a pig dance a jig. Well, I never before saw a pig dance a jig.